Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Mastering English with Podcasts. Today, we're diving into a topic that's very close to the heart of every English learner: how to become fluent in English. I'm sure most of you have thought about this at some point, right? What does it take to truly be fluent in English? Is it just about learning new words, or is there something more?
Exactly, Raizel. Fluency is more than just vocabulary or grammar rules. It's about being able to express yourself naturally without constantly stopping to think about every word. So, let me ask you, Raizel, what do you think is the first step to becoming fluent?
Great question, Ricky. To kick things off, the first step is constant exposure to English. Whether it's through listening to English podcasts like ours, watching movies or series in English, or reading books and articles, the more you surround yourself with the language, the better. What do you think, Ricky?
I completely agree. Fluency doesn't happen overnight. You need to immerse yourself in the language. And here's a key point. When you're listening to or reading something in English, make sure you actively engage with the content. Don't just let it wash over you. Really think about what's being said. Pause if necessary, and ask yourself, what does this mean?
Exactly. And speaking of engagement, let me ask all of you out there, how do you normally practice English in your daily life? Let us know in the comments below.
So, now that we've touched on immersion, let's talk about some specific steps that can help you gain fluency. Step 1. Practice speaking every day. This is key. And I know what you're thinking. I don't have anyone to practice with. Well, guess what? You don't always need someone else. You can practice speaking by yourself.
That's true. One simple trick is to talk to yourself in English. I know it sounds a little odd, but it works. Try describing your day, your plans, or even your thoughts out loud. You can also use a mirror to practice conversations with yourself. It helps you get used to speaking in English without pressure.
Another step is learning new vocabulary every day. But here's the trick. Don't just memorize words. Use them in sentences. Practice them in conversations. The more you use the new words, the more they become a natural part of your speech.
Exactly. And step 3, listen and imitate. When you listen to native speakers, pay attention to their pronunciation, tone, and even pauses. Try to imitate how they speak. You can use YouTube videos, podcasts like this one, or even songs. Imitation is a great way to improve fluency.
And if you're feeling shy about speaking in English, here's a question for you. What's stopping you? Leave a comment and tell us, because it's important to address those fears.
Now, let's get into the small daily activities that can help improve your fluency. You don't need hours of practice every day. Even small things can make a big difference.
One thing you can do is think in English. This is such an easy habit to develop. Instead of thinking in your native language and translating to English, try to think directly in English. It might be tricky at first, but over time, it'll become natural.
Yes. Another great activity is to label items around your house in English. For example, put a label on your refrigerator that says fridge, or on your door that says door. This way, every time you see these items, you're reminded of their English names. It's a fun and simple way to reinforce vocabulary.
Also, here's a fun one. Try to narrate your actions in English. For example, when you're cooking, say out loud, "Now I'm chopping vegetables. Next, I'm boiling water." It helps you think and speak in English at the same time.
Now, let's talk about the practical difficulties you might face when trying to improve your fluency. One common problem is the fear of making mistakes. Ricky, have you ever experienced this?
Oh, absolutely. When I first started learning a new language, I was always nervous about speaking because I didn't want to sound silly. But here's the thing. Making mistakes is part of the learning process. You can't improve if you're afraid to make mistakes.
So true. And another difficulty is the lack of practice opportunities. Maybe you don't live in an English-speaking country or you don't have people around you to practice with. But that's why self-practice is so important. And these days, there are so many online communities where you can find language partners to practice with.
Exactly. There are apps and websites where you can connect with people all over the world to practice English. It's important to be proactive and seek out those opportunities. One other challenge is understanding different accents. But the more you listen to different sources, like podcasts, news, movies, the better you'll get at understanding them.
Now for some simple tricks or hacks to gain fluency. One of my favorites is the shadowing technique. This means listening to a native speaker and then repeating what they say right after them, almost like you're their shadow. It helps you with pronunciation, rhythm, and speed.
That's a great one. Another hack is to record yourself speaking. When you play it back, you can hear where you might need improvement, whether it's pronunciation or how naturally you're speaking. You can also compare your recordings over time to see how much you've improved.
Also, set small goals. Instead of trying to become fluent overnight, focus on specific tasks like learning 5 new words a day or practicing speaking for 10 minutes. Those small goals build up over time. All right, everyone. Now that we've covered the key steps to becoming fluent in English, let's move to one of our favorite parts of the show, the audience Q&A segment. We've received some really interesting questions, and we're excited to answer them.
Yes, we love hearing from you. And today, we have 3 awesome questions from our listeners. So, let's get started with our first question. Who's up first?
Hi, Raizel and Ricky. My name is Sarah, and I'm from Brazil. I've been learning English for about a year now. My question is, how can I stop translating in my head when I speak English? I always find myself thinking in Portuguese first.
Hey, Sarah. Great question, and I know this is something a lot of learners struggle with. So first of all, you're not alone. It's totally normal in the beginning to think in your native language and then translate to English. But the key is to start thinking directly in English.
Exactly. A trick you can try is to begin with simple thoughts. For example, when you wake up in the morning, try to think about your plans for the day in English. Instead of saying, I need to make coffee in Portuguese and then translating, try saying it directly in English. I need to make coffee.
Another helpful activity is labeling your surroundings with English words. This way, you'll start associating objects with their English names automatically, without having to go through your native language first. And Sarah, here's a challenge for you. For 10 minutes each day, try to describe everything you do in English without worrying about being perfect. This helps train your brain to switch into English mode.
And don't forget, listening and imitations help, too. When you watch something in English, listen closely to how native speakers express themselves and try to repeat their sentences without translating. You'll start thinking in English more naturally. Thanks for your question, Sarah. Let's move on to next question.
Hi, I'm Mohammed from Egypt. I struggle with speaking fluently because I get nervous and my mind goes blank, especially when I try to speak with native speakers. How can I overcome this fear and speak more confidently?
Hey, Mohammed. I'm really glad you asked this because it's such a common issue. The fear of speaking can really hold you back. But don't worry, we've got some strategies to help. First, let's talk about nervousness. It's completely normal to feel nervous when you speak, especially with native speakers. The key is to practice in low-pressure situations first.
Exactly. Start by speaking with someone you feel comfortable with, maybe another English learner, and build your confidence there. Over time, you can gradually move to conversations with native speakers. And remember, everyone makes mistakes. Even native speakers don't speak perfectly all the time.
One tip I use is preparing conversation starters in advance. For example, if you're about to meet someone and you think the conversation will be about your hobbies or work, practice answering common questions like, "What do you do?" or "What are your interests?" This gives you a head start and you won't feel as nervous.
And here's a simple trick. Slow down. You don't need to rush through your sentences. Take your time, pause when you need to, and give yourself space to think. It's not about speaking fast. It's about speaking clearly. You'll notice that once you slow down, your mind won't go blank as often.
Yes, and as you build confidence, try to focus on communicating your message, not being perfect. Native speakers will appreciate the effort, and over time, your fluency will improve naturally. Thanks for your question, Mohammed, and keep practicing.
Let's listen to final question for the day.
Hi, Raizel and Ricky. I'm Linda from Germany. I want to improve my fluency, but I don't have much time during the day. What are some quick daily activities I can do to get better at speaking English?
Hi, Linda. That's a really practical question. We get it. Life can be busy, but you can still make progress with small daily activities. One of the easiest things to do is to incorporate English into the things you already do. For example, if you're cooking, try narrating your actions in English. Now I'm chopping onions, next I'll boil water. This makes English part of your daily routine.
Another quick activity is to listen to short English podcasts while you're commuting or doing chores. Even if it's just 10 minutes a day, it helps build listening comprehension and vocabulary. And since you're short on time, you could try using language learning apps during breaks. These apps often have bite-sized lessons that you can complete in just a few minutes.
And don't forget, thinking in English is another powerful habit that doesn't take extra time. Throughout the day, try to think about what you're doing or how you're feeling in English. For example, if you're thinking about your plans, say to yourself, "I'm going to the grocery store," or "I need to finish a project." It's a quick mental exercise that can boost fluency.
Also, recording yourself speaking for just a couple of minutes a day can make a big difference. Pick any topic, maybe what you did during the day, or what your plans are for tomorrow. And just talk. When you listen back, you'll notice areas for improvement, and you'll gradually feel more confident. Thanks for the question, Linda, and keep up the great work.
That wraps up our audience Q&A segment. We loved hearing your questions, and we hope these answers were helpful.
Yes, and if you didn't get a chance to ask your question today, feel free to leave it in the comments. We'll try to answer it in a future episode, or respond directly. So, here's a final question for you all. What's one small activity you're going to start doing today to improve your fluency? Comment below and let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
Remember, fluency is a journey. It takes time and effort, but with the right steps and a positive mindset, you'll get there. Keep practicing, stay motivated, and most importantly, don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Thanks for joining us today. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you found this episode helpful. And keep those questions and comments coming. We love hearing from you.
Until next time, happy learning.